All right, so you're prepping for a job interview, and let's face it, everybody wants to just knock it out of the park.
Yep.
We're going to dive deep today into some advanced strategies for job interviews, the kind that'll really help you stand out.
Yeah.
So we'll uncover how to really decode what hiring managers are looking for. We'll talk about leveling up your vocabulary for interviews and even mastering the art of asking really insightful questions. The kind that leave them thinking, wow, this is the one.
Yeah, it's interesting how often people, just kind of focus on reciting their skills and experience.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other level to interviewing that can really make a huge difference.
Okay, I'm really interested to hear more about that.
Yeah.
What is this secret sauce that goes beyond just listing your qualifications?
You can think of it this way. Employers are kind of trying to solve a puzzle when they're hiring.
Okay.
They need someone who not only has the right skills, but also fits into their company culture.
Right.
Can tackle challenges effectively and communicates well with confidence and clarity.
So it's not just about checking boxes on a job description.
Right.
But really showcasing a much broader set of qualities.
Exactly.
I see.
They're assessing 4 key areas.
Okay.
Skills and experience, yes, but also cultural fit, problem-solving abilities, and communication skills. These are the elements that really show if you're the right piece for the puzzle.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of communication, one of the things we read about when we were prepping for this deep dive was upgrading your language. What exactly does that mean in the context of an interview?
This is where things get really interesting. The words you choose can have a huge impact on how you're perceived. So instead of using generic phrases like, I'm a hard worker, you can level up your language to something like, I'm highly self-motivated and consistently deliver high-quality results.
Oh, I see the difference.
Yeah.
It sounds so much more specific and impactful. Are there any other categories of these power phrases that we should be thinking about?
Absolutely. You can think about achievements. Achievement-oriented phrases like proactively implemented or spearheaded a project that resulted in.
Right.
Then there are problem-solving phrases, like streamlined processes to achieve or demonstrated resilience in the face of.
Okay.
And finally, don't forget about leadership phrases, like effectively mentored team members or leverage data to inform strategic decisions.
Wow, there's a lot to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But even with all the perfect power phrases, we still have those dreaded behavioral interview questions.
Right.
The ones like, tell me about a time you faced a challenge.
I know exactly what you mean. Those can be really daunting. But there's a technique that can help you structure your answers in a way that showcases your skills and experiences. It's called the STAR method.
Oh yeah, the STAR method. Remind me, what does STAR stand for?
It stands for situation, task, action, and result. And it's really a framework for telling a concise and compelling story that highlights your qualifications.
Interesting. So it's more than just stating facts. It's about weaving them into kind of a narrative.
Exactly. So let's say the interviewer asks, tell me about a time you improved a process. You would start by setting the scene, explaining the situation. Maybe something like, at my previous company, we were facing delays in delivering weekly reports.
Got it. So painting a picture of the context. What's next?
Then you explain your task. So as the team lead, it was my responsibility to identify the bottleneck and implement a solution. This clarifies your role in the situation.
Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
What about the action part? Is this where I throw in some power phrases?
Yes, this is where you shine.
Okay.
By detailing the steps you took. You can say something like, I analyzed the workflow, identified the bottlenecks, and introduced an automated reporting system.
I see how the power phrases kind of naturally fit in there.
Yeah.
And finally, the grand finale, the result.
Exactly. You would wrap it up with something like, this reduced reporting time by 50% and improved accuracy. So using the STAR method ensures that your answers are clear, concise, and they're focused on the positive outcome, which is what interviewers really want to hear.
That's super helpful. But isn't there a risk of sounding robotic or rehearsed if we rely too heavily on this method?
That's a great point. The key is to use the STAR method as a framework, but still allow your personality and genuine storytelling abilities to shine through.
Okay, so it's more of a guideline than like a rigid script.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit more at ease. Now, even with the STAR method up my sleeve, there's still those tricky interview questions that feel like they're designed to throw you off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Like, what's your biggest weakness?
Us.
Or why should we hire you?
Those always make me stumble. What's the best way to approach those kinds of questions?
Well, when it comes to those tricky questions, Authenticity is key, but it's also about strategy. So for what's your biggest weakness? You want to avoid cliches like I'm a perfectionist. Instead, choose a weakness that you've genuinely worked on improving.
So instead of trying to mask a strength as a weakness, it's about showcasing self-awareness and a growth mindset.
Exactly. You could say something like, I used to struggle with delegation, but I've actively worked on improving this skill by mentoring junior team members and assigning tasks based on their strengths.
Okay, so you turn a potential negative into a positive and highlight your commitment to development. I like that. What about why should we hire you? Any tips for making a really strong case there?
That's your chance to really shine. Don't just repeat your resume. You really want to connect your unique skills and experiences to their needs. Paint a picture of the value you would bring.
So less about I'm a hard worker and more about my background in data analysis and proven ability to streamline processes make me uniquely qualified to step into this role and contribute to your team's efficiency goals. Something like that.
Now you're talking. You showcased your understanding of their needs, and you've highlighted how your strengths align with their goals.
This is all about showcasing the value that we bring. But what about questions that feel a bit more personal? Like, why did you leave your last job? Those always make me nervous.
Keep it positive and forward-looking. It's not about bad-mouthing your previous employer, but about demonstrating your career aspirations. So you could say something like, I'm looking for an opportunity to grow professionally and contribute to a dynamic team like yours. Emphasize your excitement for the new challenges.
So framing it as a step forward, not a step away. What about that classic, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Question. How do you answer that honestly without sounding overly ambitious or like unrealistic?
You want to demonstrate ambition, but align your goals with the company's vision. They want to see that you're invested in a future that includes their organization.
Right, so it's not just about my personal aspirations, but about how those aspirations can actually contribute to the company's long-term success. Something like, I see myself taking on leadership roles and contributing to innovative projects within this organization. Would that work?
That's a great example. It shows you're ambitious, but also thinking about how you can contribute to their future.
Okay, this has been so helpful. I'm already feeling a lot more prepared to tackle these tough questions. But, it's not just about what we say, it's also about how we present ourselves, right? I've heard that nonverbal communication plays a huge role in interviews as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this secret language that can either enhance or undermine your message. You could have the most brilliant answers, but if your body language is screaming nervousness or disinterest, it can really sabotage your efforts.
Okay, now I'm a little nervous. What are some of the nonverbal cues that we should be really mindful of?
Well, eye contact is crucial. Maintain steady, natural eye contact with the interviewer. Don't stare them down or anything, but just show that you're engaged and confident. Posture is also important. Sit up straight and lean slightly forward. It shows interest and engagement. Slouching can make you appear disinterested or lacking confidence.
No slouching allowed. What about hand gestures? Should I just keep my hands glued to my lap?
Not at all. Hand gestures can be a really great way to emphasize points and add energy to your communication. Just make sure they're purposeful and controlled. You don't want to be like flailing your arms around or anything distracting.
Got it. A gentle breeze, not a hurricane. So we've got the confident posture, the natural eye contact, the controlled gestures. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Don't underestimate the power of a genuine smile. It makes you appear approachable, likable, and confident. And just try to be mindful of any nervous habits that you might have, like fidgeting with a pen or constantly adjusting your hair. Those things can be distracting and undermine your professionalism.
Basically, we want to present a confident and authentic version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Both verbally and non-verbally. No pressure, right?
Right. But remember, the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can be yourself while also presenting your best self.
One of the things that I always struggle with is that moment at the end of the interview when they ask, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
I always blank.
That's actually a golden opportunity.
Really?
Asking thoughtful questions not only shows you're genuinely interested in the role and the company, but it allows you to gather valuable information to help you decide if it's the right fit for you.
Okay, but how do I come up with questions that go beyond the typical, like, what's the company culture like? Or what are the opportunities for growth? I want to impress them with my insightfulness.
Think about questions that demonstrate your understanding of the role, the company's goals, and even some of the challenges they might be facing. For instance, you could ask, what does success look like in this role in the first 6 months?
Ooh, I like that one. It shows I'm thinking about how I can make an immediate impact.
Exactly. You could also ask about how the team measures performance and progress, demonstrating that you're results-oriented, or inquire about the company's goals for the next year and how this role contributes to those goals.
That's smart. It shows you're thinking long-term and about the bigger picture. Any other suggestions for questions that might wow them?
You could ask about the company's approach to innovation, or their commitment to specific values like sustainability or diversity and inclusion.
So aligning my questions with my own values and interests.
Exactly. It shows that you've done your research and you're genuinely interested in the company's culture and mission.
This is giving me so many ideas. It's like a whole new way to approach that dreaded, do you have any questions for us? Moment. Is there anything I should avoid asking?
Yes, avoid asking about salary or benefits in the first interview unless the interviewer brings it up. Your focus should be on demonstrating your value and enthusiasm for the role.
Okay, so it's all about showing them that I'm invested in the opportunity, not just the paycheck.
Exactly. It's about finding a role that's a win-win for both you and the company.
Speaking of finding the right fit, how do we handle those moments when we kind of stumble in an interview? You know, those awkward silences or times when we completely blank on a question?
You know, everyone experiences those moments. Even the most seasoned professionals have interview hiccups. It's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, but about how you recover.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. But what's the best way to recover when you've totally flubbed an answer or just can't seem to find the words?
If you stumble over a question, take a deep breath and just politely ask to rephrase or clarify. Something like, "Excuse me, I think I might have gotten a bit lost in my explanation. Would you mind rephrasing the question?" It just buys you a few seconds to gather your thoughts.
That's a good tip. I tend to panic and ramble when I get flustered. What about those unexpected curveball questions that seem to come out of nowhere? How do you handle those?
Those are designed to assess your critical thinking skills and how you handle pressure. If a question throws you off, don't be afraid to pause and say, "That's a great question. Let me take a moment to think that through."
So it's okay to take a few seconds to kind of compose myself and gather my thoughts.
Absolutely. It shows you're thoughtful and composed, not prone to rash answers. You can even use that time to reframe the question in your mind and connect it to your skills and experiences.
This is so helpful.
Yeah.
I often feel like I need to have an immediate answer ready for every single question, and that pressure just makes me more nervous.
Interviews are a two-way street. It's not just about them evaluating you, it's also about you evaluating them. Pay attention to the company culture, the interviewer's communication style, and any red flags that might signal that this isn't the right environment for you.
So trusting my instincts and being honest with myself about what I'm really looking for.
Exactly. The right job is out there. One where you feel valued, challenged, and inspired.
All this talk about handling those tricky moments has reminded me of something we touched on earlier, the power of the follow-up. Can we dig into that a little deeper? It seems like such a small thing, but I've heard it can really make a difference.
You're right. A well-crafted follow-up can be incredibly impactful. It's more than just a thank you note. It's a chance to reinforce your qualifications and leave a lasting positive impression.
Okay, so how do we make our follow-up stand out from those generic thank you for your time emails?
Personalization is key. Refer to specific points that were discussed during the interview. For example, you could say, "I was particularly interested in your insights on the company's commitment to innovation in the area of," and then mention the specific area. It aligns perfectly with my passion for, and then state your passion.
That's a great tip. It shows that you were listening and genuinely engaged in the conversation.
Exactly. You can also use the follow-up to address any questions or concerns that arose during the interview.
So if there was a moment where I stumbled or maybe didn't articulate my qualifications as clearly as I could, I can use the follow-up to kind of provide some additional context or clarification.
Yes. It shows that you're self-aware and proactive. And remember, timing is crucial. Aim to send your follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of the interview.
Not too soon, not too late.
Got it.
This is like the icing on the cake, the final touch that can really make your application memorable.
Precisely. A well-timed follow-up can make all the difference.
Wow, this has been incredibly helpful. I feel like I have a whole new arsenal of tools and strategies to help me navigate the interview process with a lot more confidence and authenticity.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the more you practice and refine these strategies, the more natural and effective they'll become.
Speaking of practicing and refining, is there anything else we can do to really hone our interview skills and make sure we're putting our best foot forward? What about preparing for those behavioral questions? I know we touched on the STAR method, but I could use some more tips for crafting really compelling answers.
That's a great question, and it's definitely something we can dive into. One of the keys to really mastering behavioral questions is to not just recount events, but to showcase the skills and qualities that those experiences reveal.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not just about what we did, but about how we tell it.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Facts tell, but stories sell.
I like that. So how do we transform our resume bullet points into these captivating stories that interviewers will remember?
Start by identifying the key skills or qualities that you want to showcase during the interview. Let's say you want to highlight your problem-solving skills. Think back to a specific situation where you successfully tackled a challenging problem at work.
Let me see. Oh, I remember this time when our team was facing a major deadline crunch and the project was at risk of falling behind.
That's a great starting point. Now use the STAR method to structure the story, set the scene, the situation, explain your task or your role in the project, describe the actions you took to address the problem, and highlight the positive result or outcome.
So it would be like our team was facing a tight deadline, and as the project manager, I was responsible for making sure we delivered on time. I analyzed the workflow, identified the bottlenecks, and implemented a new communication strategy to streamline our collaboration. As a result, we not only met the deadline, but we actually exceeded client expectations.
That's a fantastic example. You've woven your problem-solving skills into this compelling narrative that showcases your leadership initiative and your ability to deliver results under pressure.
Wow, it really does sound so much more impactful than just saying I'm a good problem solver.
Exactly. Stories make your accomplishments come alive, and they help you connect with the interviewer on a much deeper level.
It's like giving them a glimpse into your work style and how you approach challenges.
Precisely. And remember, the best stories are those that are authentic, engaging, and relevant to the role you're interviewing for.
This is making me think about how I can reframe my experiences to highlight my unique strengths and personality.
That's the idea. It's about showcasing who you are as a professional and how you can contribute to their success.
I'm starting to see how storytelling can be a real game changer in interviews. It's like adding this whole new dimension to your answers.
It's a powerful tool that can really help you stand out from the crowd and leave a lasting impression.
Speaking of leaving a lasting impression, I remember you mentioned something about asking insightful questions at the end of the interview. Can we dig a little deeper into that? I'm always looking for ways to make a good final impression.
Absolutely. Asking insightful questions is a great way to gather valuable information, demonstrate your genuine interest, and leave a positive final impression. This is where you can really differentiate yourself.
I know we talked about asking about company goals and team dynamics, but are there any other types of questions that can really wow them?
One strategy is to tap into the interviewer's expertise. Most people enjoy talking about their work and sharing their perspectives.
So it's about turning the interview into more of a conversation.
Exactly. For example, you could ask something like, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in this role? Or what excites you most about the future of this industry?
Those are great. They show that you're curious, eager to learn, and genuinely interested in their perspective.
Precisely. And you might be surprised by the insights you gain. It could give you a better understanding of the company culture, the role's complexities, and even potential opportunities for growth.
It's like getting insider information while also demonstrating my intellectual curiosity.
Exactly. Another powerful approach is to ask about the company's commitment to specific values, like diversity and inclusion, innovation, or sustainability.
So for example, if I'm passionate about sustainability, I could ask, how does the company integrate sustainable practices into its operations?
That's a great example. It shows that you're not just looking for any job, but one that aligns with your values.
It also demonstrates that you've done your research and are genuinely interested in the company's commitment to those values.
Precisely. It's about finding a company whose culture and values resonate with your own.
This is giving me so many ideas. It's like a whole new way to approach the "do you have any questions for us" part of the interview.
Remember, this is your chance to shine, gather valuable information, and leave a lasting, positive impression.
It's like the grand finale of the interview.
Exactly. Make it count.
I'm definitely going to be practicing my storytelling skills and brainstorming some really insightful questions.
Great. Preparation is key to feeling confident and ready to ace that interview.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about impressing the interviewer, but what about those moments when things don't go exactly as planned? Like when we stumble over a question or get hit with a curveball that we weren't expecting.
Ah, yes. The inevitable interview hiccups. Everyone experiences them, even the most seasoned professionals.
It's like that moment when you walk into a room full of people and they're all staring at you and you have no idea why.
Exactly. It can be unsettling, but the key is to stay calm, composed, and just remember that everyone makes mistakes.
Easier said than done sometimes, especially when the pressure is on.
I understand. But here's the thing. How you handle those moments can be just as impressive as your perfectly rehearsed answers.
So it's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, but about recovering gracefully.
Precisely. Let's say you stumble over a question. The worst thing you can do is panic and spiral into a sea of ums and us.
Oh, I've definitely been there before.
Yeah.
It's like your brain suddenly goes blank and all you can do is stare blankly at the interviewer.
It happens. Instead of panicking, take a deep breath, acknowledge the stumble, and politely ask to rephrase or clarify the question.
So something like, excuse me, I think I might have gotten a bit lost in my explanation. Could you please rephrase the question?
Perfect. It shows that you're self-aware, composed, and willing to ask for clarification.
And it buys you those precious few seconds to gather your thoughts and come up with a more coherent response.
Exactly. Now, what about those curveball questions? The ones that seemingly come out of nowhere and leave you feeling completely unprepared.
Oh, those are the worst. It's like they're trying to trick you or catch you off guard.
Sometimes it might feel that way, but often those questions are designed to assess your critical thinking skills, adaptability, and how you handle unexpected situations.
So it's less about having the right answer and more about demonstrating how you think on your feet.
Precisely. If you're hit with a question that completely throws you off, don't be afraid to take a moment to pause, reflect, and gather your thoughts.
So instead of blurting out the first thing that comes to mind, it's okay to say something like, "That's a great question. Let me take a moment to think about that."
Exactly. It shows that you're thoughtful and composed. You can even use that time to reframe the question in your mind and connect it to your skills and experiences.
It's like turning a potential weakness into an opportunity to demonstrate my ability to think critically and adapt to those unexpected challenges.
Precisely. Remember, interviews are a two-way street. They're not just about them evaluating you, it's also about you evaluating them.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in trying to impress them that we forget that we're also trying to determine if this is the right fit for us.
Exactly. Pay attention to the company culture, the interviewer's communication style, and any red flags that might signal this isn't the right environment for you.
So trusting my instincts and being honest with myself about what I'm really looking for in a job.
Absolutely. The right job is out there. And it's one where you feel valued, challenged, and inspired to do your best work.
I'm feeling so much more empowered now. It's like I've been given this secret playbook for navigating the complexities of job interviews.
And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice your storytelling, refine your questions, and develop strategies for handling those tricky moments, the more confident you'll become.
You're absolutely right. I'm ready to tackle those interviews with a newfound sense of confidence and a whole arsenal of interview-crushing techniques.
That's the spirit. Now, there's one last piece of the puzzle that often gets overlooked, but can be incredibly impactful in setting you apart from other candidates.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's the power of the follow-up.
The follow-up, like sending a thank you note?
Yes, but it's so much more than just a polite gesture. A well-crafted follow-up can solidify your impression, re-emphasize your value, and even address any lingering questions or concerns that the interviewer might have.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some tips for crafting a follow-up that truly stands out?
First and foremost, personalize it. Generic thank you notes that just say thank you for your time don't really make much of an impact.
So it's about going beyond the basic thank you for considering me for the role message.
Exactly. Think back to specific points that were discussed during the interview and mention something that particularly resonated with you. For example, you could say, I was particularly interested in your insights on the company's commitment to innovation in the area of Tamil, and then you mention the specific area that they mentioned. It aligns perfectly with my passion for, and then state your passion.
That's a great tip. It shows that you are actively listening and genuinely interested in what they had to say.
Exactly. You can also use the follow-up to address any questions or concerns that might have arisen during the interview.
So if there was a moment where I stumbled or maybe felt like I didn't fully articulate my qualifications, I can use the follow-up to provide additional context or clarification.
That's a great strategy. It shows that you're self-aware and proactive in addressing any potential concerns.
It's like giving yourself a second chance to make a really strong impression.
Exactly. And remember, timing is key. Aim to send your follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of the interview.
So not too soon, not too late.
Right.
Just the right amount of time to stay top of mind without seeming too eager or desperate.
Precisely. A well-timed follow-up can be a powerful reminder of your qualifications and enthusiasm for the role.
I'm starting to see how the follow-up is like the icing on the cake, the final touch that can really elevate your overall impression and leave them with a positive, lasting memory.
Exactly. It's a small but significant gesture that can make a big difference.
Wow, this deep dive has been packed with so many valuable insights. I feel like I've been given a masterclass in advanced interview techniques.
And remember, the key is to practice, refine, and adapt these strategies to fit your own unique personality and the specific roles you're interviewing for.
You're right. It's all about finding what works best for us and putting our best foot forward.
And remember, every interview, whether it leads to a job offer or not, is a valuable learning experience that can help you grow and refine your approach.
That's such a great point. It's all about continuous improvement and becoming the best versions of ourselves, both professionally and personally.
Exactly. And with that in mind, I'm curious to hear what has resonated most with you from this deep dive. What strategies or insights are you most excited to implement in your upcoming interviews?
That's a great question. I think for me, the biggest takeaway is the power of storytelling and the importance of crafting these compelling narratives that showcase my skills and experiences in a way that's both authentic and engaging.
That's fantastic. Storytelling is such a powerful tool, and it's something that can be applied not just in interviews, but in all areas of communication.
I'm also really intrigued by the idea of asking insightful questions that tap into the interviewer's expertise and the company's values. It's like a way to turn the interview into a more engaging and informative conversation.
That's a great observation. Remember, interviews are a two-way street. They're not just about them evaluating you, but also about you evaluating them to see if it's the right fit for both parties.
I'm also going to be paying more attention to my nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
I never realized how much our body language can impact the interviewer's perception of us.
Nonverbal cues are incredibly powerful, and being mindful of them can really help you project confidence, engagement, and authenticity.
Overall, I feel so much more prepared and empowered to tackle those interviews head on. It's like I've been given a secret weapon or maybe even a superpower.
That's the spirit. And remember, the most important thing is to believe in yourself and your abilities. You've got this.
Thank you so much for sharing all of these incredible insights. I feel like I've gained a whole new level of interview mastery.
The pleasure was all mine. Now go out there and crush those interviews.
I will. And for those of you listening, I hope you found this deep dive as valuable as I have. Remember, the job search can be challenging, but with the right tools and mindset, you can achieve your career goals.
And never underestimate the power of preparation practice and a positive attitude. You've got this.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to help you navigate the complexities of the professional world. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve. You know, all this talk about showcasing our skills and nailing those tricky questions has me thinking. Well, we spend so much time, focusing on how to impress the interviewer.
Right.
But what about figuring out if the company is actually a good fit for us?
That's such an important point. It often gets overlooked in all the frenzy of the interview prep.
Exactly. How do we go beyond just, answering their questions and really assess, whether we thrive in that environment?
It starts with self-reflection before you even step into an interview. Take some time to really understand, what are your values? What are your career aspirations? What are you looking for in a work environment?
So it's like taking a personal inventory of, our professional selves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and what really matters to us in a job.
Exactly. The more clarity you have about what you want, the better equipped you'll be to identify opportunities that are truly aligned with your vision.
Makes a lot of sense. It's like having a roadmap for your career journey. Right. So you're not just blindly applying for any job. That pops up on your LinkedIn feed.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. If you don't know your destination, any road will take you there.
Right.
But if you have a clear vision of where you want to go, then you can choose the path that leads you directly to your goals.
Okay, I'm on board with the self-reflection part.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use that information?
Yeah.
To guide our job search and, make smarter decisions about which opportunities to pursue?
It's all about alignment. Once you're crystal clear about what you're looking for, you can target companies and roles that are more likely to be a good fit. And this means going beyond just the job title, really digging into the company's culture, values, and mission.
So instead of just, firing off applications, to every company that's hiring for a marketing manager, I should be more selective and focus on companies whose values and, work environment really resonate with my own.
Exactly. This way, you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right job. A job that aligns with your passions and aspirations.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like dating. You wouldn't just go out with anyone who asks, right?
Yeah.
You want to find someone who shares your values and interests.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's so true. And when you find a company that truly aligns with what you're looking for, your enthusiasm and your genuine interest will really shine through during the interview process.
This is making me realize that self-reflection, it isn't just a one-time exercise,
Right.
but it's kind of an ongoing process of checking in with ourselves and making sure we're still on the right track.
Absolutely. You know your values and career aspirations, they might evolve over time. So it's important to continuously evaluate your goals, make adjustments as needed, and just ensure that your professional journey is fulfilling and aligned with your vision.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. It's like we've gone beyond those surface-level interview tips and really delved into the deeper, more strategic aspects of career navigation.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on how to approach the job search process.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, the job search can be challenging, but it's ultimately a very rewarding journey.
Yeah.
It's about more than just landing a job. It's about finding a role that brings you both professional success and personal fulfillment.
You're so right. And with all these insights and strategies we've discussed today, I'm feeling more confident and equipped than ever to navigate this journey and land that dream job.
That's what I love to hear. Believe in yourself, stay true to your values, and never stop learning and growing.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. I feel like I've really leveled up my career game today.
The pleasure was all mine. Now go out there and shine.
I will.
Yeah.
And to all of you listening, we wish you the very best of luck in your job search endeavors.
Absolutely.
Remember, you are capable of achieving great things.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep striving for your dreams.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to help you navigate the complexities of the professional world. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve.
Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of California wildfires. We've got some really interesting source material for you guys today. It's an excerpt from a podcast script that focuses on California fires. And by the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll be able to move beyond just the headlines and really understand this whole situation.
Yeah, we're going to go beyond just the surface level and really get into all the causes, all the effects of this, and what we can do to potentially solve this problem. You might be surprised what we find.
Yeah. One of the first things that just blew me away when I was reading this script is that something like 80% of wildfires are caused by humans.
Whoa.
That's a crazy number, 80%. So it's not, it's not just like Mother Nature doing this. It's really us.
Yeah. It really makes you think about our role in all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So to get started, let's talk about a little bit of a background here. California's wildfire history is long and complicated, but it's definitely escalated in recent years. The script talks about the Camp Creek fire of 2023. Oh, yeah.
As like a prime example of this escalation.
That was devastating. Thousands of acres burned. Tens of thousands of people had to evacuate.
Yeah. It's just hard to even imagine the scale of destruction. And it's not just the immediate damage, right? We're talking about billions of dollars annually. Like, imagine a small country's entire GDP wiped out every year because of these fires.
Yeah, and that's just the economic cost. There's so much damage environmentally, too, with all the carbon dioxide being released. We'll get into the environmental impact a little bit later, but it's a huge part of this whole story.
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen the devastation, but what's causing these infernos? The script points to 4 main causes. And it's a mix of both natural and, as we said, human-made. It's like a perfect storm brewing.
Yeah, it really is. The first one is one that's getting harder and harder to ignore, and that's climate change. They talk about the 2022 heat waves in California as a prime example of this, with the rising temperatures and the prolonged droughts. It creates this like tinderbox. So it's like climate change is setting the stage for these mega fires.
Exactly. It just bakes the moisture out of all the vegetation and makes it so easy to start a fire.
Wow. And then, of course, you've got that 80% that we were talking about, the human element that's causing these fires. Now, human-caused fires can be both accidental and intentional. But can you give us some examples from the source?
Yeah, for sure. On the accidental side, you've got campfires that weren't put out all the way, or cigarettes that are thrown out, even like sparks from machinery can cause this. And then there's something as simple as a car's catalytic converter.
Wow.
If it's really hot, it can ignite dry grass and set off a huge fire.
It's kind of scary how easy it is for these things to get started. What about intentional fires? The script talks about a particularly shocking example.
Yeah, the 2020 El Dorado fire was started by a gender reveal party.
No way.
Yeah, a pyrotechnic device they were using ignited the dry grass and it spread out of control.
Wow, I never would thought that a gender reveal party could start a wildfire. That's crazy.
It really is. And it highlights the importance of just being aware of your surroundings and what you're doing, especially when you're in a place that's prone to fire.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got climate change, making things really dry. Humans are providing the spark, but there's some other factors too, right?
Right.
The script also talks about urban expansion as playing a role. What does that mean?
Well, as more and more people are moving into these areas that border wilderness, the risk of wildfires impacting homes and people is going way up. So we're building in areas that are naturally prone to fire, and that's just making it more dangerous.
Yeah, we're kind of building ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have natural causes, right? Even though humans start most of these fires, nature still has a role.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lightning strikes, especially when things are dry, can start massive fires.
Yeah, of course.
And then there's the Santa Ana winds. Those hot, dry winds can turn a small fire into something huge really quickly. So welcome back to the deep dive. We've talked about what causes these California wildfires, but now let's think about the ripple effects. These fires impact a lot more than just California.
Yeah, we've been setting the stage, figuring out what causes this, but now we've got to ask, so what? What does all this mean for you, the listener? Even if you don't live in California, how does this affect you?
Right. We're going to connect the dots and show you how all this fits into a much bigger picture.
Okay, let's start with the environment. We talked about it a little earlier. We think about forests. We think, oh, they're beautiful. But they play a huge role in keeping our planet healthy.
Oh, absolutely. Think of California's forests like these giant sponges. They soak up all the carbon dioxide that's heating up the planet. They absorb tons of CO2 from the air.
So when these forests burn, all that carbon goes back into the atmosphere. That sounds bad.
It is. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. The more forests burn, the more carbon is released, which makes climate change worse, which leads to more fires. It's this crazy cycle.
And it's not just the carbon we should be worried about, right?
No, not at all. There's all kinds of nasty stuff released into the air when there's a wildfire, like particulate matter, ozone, even toxic chemicals, and all that pollution can travel for miles and miles.
So even if you're far away from California, you could still be breathing in smoke from these fires. That's scary.
Yeah, it shows how connected everything is on our planet. What happens in one place affects everyone.
So we've got the environmental impacts, carbon, air pollution, but what about our health? I know wildfire smoke is bad for you, but how bad is it, really?
It's really bad. Wildfire smoke is full of these tiny particles, gases, and chemicals that can get deep into your lungs. It can cause all sorts of breathing problems, asthma attacks, bronchitis, even heart problems.
So even when the fire's out, the danger isn't really over.
Nope, not at all. The smoke can stick around long after the fire's gone. And like we said before, kids, older folks, and people with breathing problems are at a higher risk.
It's like this invisible threat that hangs around. And then there's the mental and emotional toll too, right? I mean, going through a wildfire, the fear of losing your home, that's got to be tough.
Oh, absolutely. The emotional impact of these wildfires is huge. People are dealing with stress, anxiety, even PTSD. It can take years to recover.
And we can't forget the social and economic impacts. We've already talked about the billions of dollars in damage, but it goes beyond that.
It does. Businesses get destroyed, people lose their jobs, and rebuilding is so expensive. And sadly, low-income communities and communities of color often get hit the hardest.
That's a really important point. It's not just about the damage to buildings, it's about the social and economic inequalities that get worse because of these disasters.
Exactly. These communities often don't have the resources to prepare for or recover from wildfires. It really shows how climate change and environmental disasters don't affect everyone equally.
Okay, so we've talked about the causes and the consequences. This is clearly a big problem with a lot of different sides to it. But the question everyone's probably thinking is, what can we do about it? Is there any hope? Can we make these California wildfires less frequent and less destructive?
There is hope, but it requires a big change in how we think about wildfires. We need to move from just reacting to them to actually preventing them, from fighting fires to managing the landscape so that fires are less likely to happen in the first place.
Okay, I like that. How do we do that? What does a more preventative approach look like?
Well, for starters, we need to rethink our relationship with fire. It's not just this destructive force. It's a natural part of healthy ecosystems.
That's a pretty different way of looking at things.
It is, but it's important if we want to find solutions that work in the long run. We can learn a lot from indigenous communities who have been managing fire for centuries. They use controlled burns to clear out underbrush and create healthier forests that are more resilient to wildfires.
So it's about working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. We need to do things like thinning out dense forests, removing dead trees, and creating fuel breaks. This makes it harder for wildfires to spread.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it's important work. What about technology? Can technology help us manage these fires?
Absolutely. We're seeing amazing advancements in how we detect and fight fires. We're also getting better at predicting how fires will behave. Satellites, drones, computer modeling these are giving us new tools to understand and respond to wildfires.
Yeah, it seems like we're entering a whole new era of wildfire management. Like we're combining technology with this ancient wisdom.
It really is amazing. And it's not just about gadgets and old ways of doing things. We also need better policies and more money for research. But maybe the most important thing is a change in how we think about this whole problem.
When you say a change in how we think, what do you mean?
We need to stop thinking that we can only react to wildfires. Like we see a fire, then we put it out. We got to be more proactive. We got to focus on preventing fires, being prepared, and building communities that can bounce back.
So it's kind of like wildfires are going to happen in California. That's just a fact. So we need to design our communities and our lives to be ready for that. What would that actually look like?
Well, think about communities where the houses are built with fire-resistant materials, where there's space around neighborhoods to stop fires from spreading, and where we have systems that warn people early so they can evacuate.
So we're talking about a culture of preparedness, where everyone's working together to stay safe. That sounds huge, but really important.
It is. And remember, wildfires aren't just a California problem. They're happening all over the world. It's a global issue. So the solutions we come up with here can be used in other places too.
Okay, let's talk about what individuals can do to protect themselves and their families. Especially if they live in an area where wildfires are a risk. What are some essential things they can do?
First things first, have an evacuation plan. You got to know where to go, what to take, and make sure everyone in your family knows what to do. Pack a go bag with things like medicines, important papers, some clothes. Be ready.
So it's about being prepared, not panicking when something happens.
Exactly. And don't wait until there's a fire to figure this stuff out. Do it now. Learn the evacuation routes, sign up for alerts, and practice your plan with your family.
Okay, what about staying informed? How can people keep up with what's going on with wildfires?
Technology is super helpful for that. Download apps like CAL FIRE to get alerts. Watch the news, check the weather, and stay connected with your community.
So basically, know what's happening around you, stay in the loop.
Yep, and remember, your home is your first line of defense. Create a defensible space around your house. Clear away dry brush, trim trees, and use plants that are fire resistant. Clean your gutters and don't keep flammable stuff near your house. Those little things make a difference.
Thinking back to that 80% of wildfires being caused by humans, it really makes you realize that we each have a responsibility to prevent fires.
It's so true. We need to be careful, especially during fire season. Putting out campfires completely, being careful with machinery, even avoiding things that could cause a spark on a dry day. Those things can save lives and property.
So it's not just about being prepared for a fire, it's about making sure fires don't start in the first place.
Exactly. And beyond what individuals can do, we need to support policies that help manage forests, invest in renewable energy, and fight climate change. Those are the big solutions that will help us in the long run.
It's about recognizing that this isn't just a local problem, it's a global one. Okay, we've covered a lot today. We talked about the causes, the consequences, and what we can do about these California wildfires. What are some key things you want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I hope they have a better understanding of what causes these fires and how they affect everyone, not just people in California. But most importantly, I hope they feel like they can actually do something about it, that they can be part of the solution.
It's about taking action, being informed, and working together to create a safer future. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into California wildfires.
It's been great talking to you all. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. All right, ready to dive in. Today, it's phrasal verbs. Those combos of words that, well, sometimes make English a bit of a puzzle.
Oh yeah, they can be tricky. And the deeper you go with them, the more you see how much they're everywhere in how we talk and write.
It really hit me when I first started noticing them. It was like, hold on, why did these two little words together mean something totally different?
It's funny, right? Native speakers don't think about it much, but for anyone learning English, phrasal verbs can be really confusing. They don't always play by the rules.
You can say that again. You can't just look up each word separately and think you've got it. It's like their own secret code. So to break it down, what exactly is a phrasal verb?
Simply put, it's a verb combined with another word, usually a preposition or an adverb, which we call a particle, and together, boom, you get a whole new meaning, often totally different from the original verb.
It's like taking two simple ingredients and mixing them up to make something new and unexpected. Flour and water, basic on their own, but combine them. You get the basis for so many amazing baked goods.
That's a great way to put it. And just like baking, there are different types of phrasal verbs. We've got intransitive phrasal verbs. Those are kind of like your standalone ingredients. They work all on their own.
Okay, I need an example, something I can picture.
Think of breakdown, like the call broke down. You don't need any other info, right? The car stopped working. That's intransitive.
Got it. But you said there are other types, right? Some that are a bit more, well, complex.
There are. We've got transitive separable phrasal verbs. As the name gives away, they can be separated. They need an object to make sense, and that object can either go before or after the particle.
So they keep us guessing. Example, please.
Turn down, like turn down the music.
Yeah.
Or you can say turn the music down. Both are correct. Both mean the same thing.
Ah, so the object can move around a bit with these guys. I'm seeing how these phrasal verbs can be tricky. What about the last type? There's one more, right?
Right. Transitive inseparable phrasal verbs. They're a bit more, straightforward in a way. The verb and the particle are always glued together. The object always comes after.
No matter what, these two are a package deal.
Exactly. Like run into. You can say, I ran into an old friend, but not I ran an old friend into. Just sounds off.
All right, so we've got the different types down. Now let's get to some common examples. This is where things get fun, because some of these phrasal verbs are so normal in how we speak that we don't even realize we're using them.
You're right. And as you said earlier, just knowing the individual words doesn't mean you know the phrasal verb. It's all about how those words work together to create a new meaning.
Absolutely. So let's look at some of these everyday phrasal verbs. We've got breakdown, but how about give up? That one seems pretty simple, right? Like, don't give up on your dreams.
Seems simple, yeah. But even with give up, there are, subtle differences.
Oh, tell me more.
For instance, you can give up on something because it's too hard.
Right.
Right. But you can also give up a bad habit. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So the context is really important.
Right. It's not just the words themselves, it's how they're used. Got to make it even tougher for English learners, huh?
Absolutely. And that brings us to, another common one, put off. Like I've been putting off that assignment. Procrastination. Anyone.
Oh, you're speaking my language. We've all been there. But wait, if give up can have these different shades of meaning, does put off do the same?
It sure does. Put off often means to delay. Yeah. But it can also mean to make someone, oh yeah, for sure. Remember those tricky transitive separable verbs we talked about? Well, some of those can have multiple meanings. That's where it gets really interesting.
Really interesting. That usually means things are about to get complicated.
Let's just say mastering phrasal verbs is a bit like a puzzle, right? You need to see the whole picture. Sometimes the same two words can mean totally different things, depending on how they're used.
All right, I need an example. Need to see it in action to really get it.
Take off. It can mean to remove something, take off your shoes, right? But it can also describe sudden success, like her career took off after her book. And then, of course, it can also mean to, depart, like a plane taking off.
Whoa, okay. 3 totally different meanings, same 2 words. How do you keep track of all that?
It's all about context.
Yeah.
It's like we've been talking about. Think of phrasal verbs like chameleons. They change, they blend in, To really understand one, you've got to look at the words around it.
That's a great way to think about it. It's not about memorizing one definition. It's about how the phrasal verb works in the whole sentence, the whole situation.
Exactly. And take off is just one. There are tons of phrasal verbs with these, you could say, multiple personalities.
Okay, hit me with another one.
How about set up? It can mean to establish something, like They set up a new business. But it can also mean to frame someone. He was set up.
Whoa, that's a big difference. You really have to pay attention to the other words to know what's going on.
For sure. And just when you think you've got it, there's another meaning. Let's try bring up.
Okay, what could bring up mean besides, well, bringing something up from the basement?
It can be as simple as, mentioning something. Don't bring up politics at dinner. But it can also mean raising a child. She was brought up in a small village.
So the same two words can mean talking about politics or how someone was raised. That's amazing. It's like each phrasal verb is this puzzle.
It is. And the more you work on these puzzles, the more you see how interesting and complex English really is.
All right, so we know phrasal verbs can be tough.
Yeah.
Especially when they have a bunch of different meanings. But how can we, as English speakers or learners, get better at using them? Any advice?
Well, honestly, one of the best things is to just pay attention to how they're used in real life. When you're watching movies, reading, even just talking to people.
It's like learning by doing, right? Just absorbing it all.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you use them, the more comfortable you'll get.
Mistakes are part of the process.
Yeah.
But what about some more, structured ways to learn them? Any tips for really making them stick?
One thing that helps me is grouping them by topic. Like, if you're planning a trip, focus on phrasal verbs about travel. Set off, check in, things like that.
Oh, that's smart. Like creating your own little phrasal verb toolbox. Travel ones, cooking ones, work ones.
Right. And flashcards can help too. Or language learning apps. Lots of tools out there to, test yourself and practice.
Flashcards, apps, grouping them. Good practical advice. But I'm also curious about where these phrasal verbs come from. Are there any interesting stories behind them?
Many of them do. Like look up to, meaning to admire someone. It probably came from, actually looking up at someone taller than you. It's pretty cool how these everyday phrases have, these historical connections.
Wow, that is cool. Like each phrasal verb has its own little history. It makes them more fun to learn when you know where they come from.
I agree. It's those little bits of history that make a language come alive.
Yeah.
And suddenly these seemingly random phrasal verbs, they make more sense.
Like we're uncovering some secret code, right? Seeing this whole other layer of meaning in English.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the more you see those layers, the more you appreciate phrasal verbs, even if they, trip you up sometimes.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into phrasal verbs, what's the main takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to, just be curious. Be open to exploring. Don't be afraid to try them out, make mistakes, have fun with it.
I love that. It's not about being perfect. It's about the journey. It's about realizing that language is always changing. And phrasal verbs, they show us how creative we can be with language.
Well said. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep practicing, and have fun with English.
And here's a challenge for you. See how many phrasal verbs you can spot in, the next movie you watch or book you read.
You might be surprised how many there are. Like a little treasure hunt.
Exactly. Keep your ears open, and who knows? You might even find a new favorite phrasal verb. Until next time, happy learning.
All right, so let's ditch the whole learn English for work thing.
Yeah.
We're going deeper.
Way deeper.
Into all the unexpected benefits of mastering English.
Right.
Stuff that even like seasoned learners, might find pretty surprising.
For sure.
And our source for this deep dive is this really insightful excerpt.
Okay.
Called Why You Shouldn't Learn English Just for Work. So get ready for some serious aha moments.
Yeah. It's fascinating how much we box in language learning. It's not just about resumes and stuff. It's like a cognitive upgrade that impacts every corner of your life.
Oh, wow.
Like literally rewiring your brain.
Really?
Yeah. Studies show that bilinguals, they have enhanced attention control and stuff, which is a game changer, even for, say, a computer programmer.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
I always knew that learning a new language was good for you.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, and the source breaks it down by skill level.
Okay.
Which I find incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Even at the beginner level, those small wins, like ordering food while you're abroad or taking a basic online course in English.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
So you're saying even those baby steps can have a big impact?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Think about it. You're not just memorizing phrases.
Right.
You're engaging with the world more directly.
That's true.
What stands out to you about that early stage of learning?
Well, I think it's that feeling of independence.
Yes.
Suddenly you're not relying on someone else to translate everything for you. You know you're in control.
You are.
It's easy to forget that when you're struggling with verb conjugations.
Exactly. And the source highlights how as you hit that intermediate level,
Okay.
things really open up. You can dive into like global online communities.
Right.
Understand your favorite English language shows without subtitles.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a whole new level of connection.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this goes way beyond just the typical career advice.
Right. You're not just learning English. You're opening up these new avenues for personal growth.
Totally.
Like you're participating, not just passively consuming. And as you progress, imagine engaging in like nuanced conversations,
Wow.
debating ideas, forming relationships with people from all walks of life.
That's amazing.
The confidence boost alone is transformative.
The source mentions confidence quite a bit.
Yeah.
What's the connection there?
Well, think about it. Learning a language is challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
Every step forward from like mastering a tricky grammar rule to holding a conversation,
Right.
it proves to yourself that you can tackle tough stuff.
Yeah.
It builds resilience, a growth mindset.
Right.
And that's valuable in any pursuit, not just language.
That's a great point. It's like that I can climb a mountain feeling,
Yeah,
but for your brain.
exactly.
And speaking of mountains, the source dives into travel,
Yeah.
which I know is a huge motivator for many language learners.
Well, travel is definitely a common motivator.
Right.
The source argues that it's the independence gained that's truly transformative.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. Anyone can follow a tour guide around.
Yeah.
But imagine exploring a new city, striking up conversations with locals, discovering hidden gems off the beaten path,
Yeah.
all because you can communicate confidently.
Yeah.
That's a different level of experience entirely.
It's about going beyond the surface, experiencing a culture on a deeper level,
Right.
not just observing it from a tourist's perspective.
And that ties back to the confidence we were talking about.
Right.
You're not just a tourist anymore, you're a traveler, an explorer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're empowered to shape your own experience.
I like that.
And the source emphasizes that feeling of empowerment throughout,
Yeah.
at every skill level.
That's so interesting. It's like language learning is this secret weapon for personal growth,
Yeah,
but most people only see the tip of the iceberg.
exactly. And we're just getting started.
Oh, wow.
What really grabbed my attention was the source's focus on going beyond the practical benefits
Okay.
and diving into the realm of personal growth and broader perspectives.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Tell me more.
Well, it talks about developing empathy
Ah.
by understanding different cultures' viewpoints,
Yeah.
which is crucial in our increasingly interconnected world.
Right. It's one thing to read about a different culture, but it's another thing entirely to connect with someone from that culture,
Absolutely.
understand their perspective, and see the world through their eyes.
Yeah,
That's real understanding.
absolutely. And the source links this directly to personal growth,
Okay.
becoming more adaptable, more open-minded,
Right.
more well-rounded as a person.
This is way more profound than I expected.
Right.
You've gone from ordering food to literally expanding our worldview.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on the educational benefits yet.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's dive into that. What does the source say about education? I think we often forget that language opens up access to a whole world of knowledge.
It's a gateway, like you said.
Yeah.
Even at a basic level, being able to follow simple instructions
Uh-huh.
or understand like a basic online course,
Right.
that can be eye-opening.
You know, that reminds me of a friend who learned just enough English to take an online photography course.
Wow.
And it like sparked this whole passion he never knew he had.
Yeah.
He's now winning awards for his photography.
That's incredible.
I know, it's amazing.
It's amazing how something as simple as understanding instructions
Right.
can snowball into something so significant.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how the source emphasizes that this educational benefit scales as your fluency grows.
So what happens when you move beyond the beginner stage?
Imagine this. You're at the intermediate level.
Okay.
You can now attend international webinars,
Hmm.
participate in workshops led by experts from around the world.
Right.
It completely changes the game,
You're not just learning English anymore.
right?
You're learning about any topic that interests you,
Yeah,
taught by the best in the field.
exactly. And for those who achieve an advanced level,
Okay.
the possibilities become even more vast.
Like what?
Think about applying for international scholarships,
Yeah.
studying at top universities in English-speaking countries.
Talk about a life-changing opportunity.
Right.
But even if you're not aiming for academia, the access to information itself is incredible. You're not limited to resources in your native language anymore.
That's a point the source really drives home. You can read research papers, articles, books, all in their original language.
Wow.
It removes a layer of interpretation
Yeah.
and allows you to engage with information directly.
It's like getting a backstage pass to the world of knowledge.
Exactly.
So we've covered communication, confidence, travel, personal growth, education.
Yeah.
What else is there?
There's one more point I want to highlight.
Okay.
And it's something that really resonated with me. The source discusses how learning English can help you become a more informed and engaged global citizen.
Okay, now that's a powerful statement.
Right.
Tell me more.
Think about it. You're no longer limited to news sources or opinions in your native language.
Right.
You can access information from various perspectives, form your own opinions based on a wider range of viewpoints.
It's so easy to get trapped in your own little bubble,
It is.
especially with the way news is curated these days.
Right.
Breaking free from that echo chamber and seeing different sides of a story
Yeah.
feels incredibly important.
That's precisely what the source is getting at. It's about developing critical thinking skills,
Right.
discerning fact from fiction, and understanding the complexities of global issues.
I'm seeing now how all of these benefits connect.
Yeah.
It starts with basic communication, then builds confidence, opens doors to travel and education,
Right.
broadens perspectives, and ultimately empowers you to engage with the world on a whole new level.
That's the beautiful journey this excerpt takes us on.
Yeah.
It dismantles the limited view of language learning as just a career tool
Right.
and reveals its potential to transform our lives from the inside out.
This has been a real eye-opener.
Hasn't it?
I'm starting to think of fluency in English less like a skill to acquire and more like a key to unlocking a whole new version of myself.
And to think we're just scratching the surface here.
Wow.
There's so much more to uncover. So much potential for growth and discovery.
Honestly, I'm blown away by how much deeper this topic goes than I initially thought.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And to our listener out there, I'd say buckle up because this deep dive is about to get really personal. Okay, so we've covered like a ton of ground here, but
yeah.
what does it all really mean? You know, for you, our listener,
Right.
What's the big takeaway here?
Well, the key takeaway for me is this: don't limit your thinking about learning English. It's not just a box to check on your resume or a tool for like navigating tourist traps.
It's a catalyst for like personal transformation, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about expanding your world,
Yeah.
both literally and figuratively, pushing beyond your comfort zone and embracing new possibilities.
And the best part is it's never too late to start.
Never.
No matter where you are in life, what your current skill level is,
Right.
there's always something new to learn and discover.
Exactly. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step towards a richer, more fulfilling life.
This excerpt really hammered home the point that learning English is an investment in yourself,
Yeah.
an investment in your future.
An investment that pays dividends in ways you might never have imagined.
Okay, I have to ask,
Yeah.
if fluency in English could unlock one door in your life right now, which would you choose and why?
That's a great question. I think for me, it would be the ability to delve deeper into different cultures
Okay.
through their literature and films,
Wow.
to experience those stories in their original language
Right.
without any filters or translations.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. And it speaks to the heart of what we've been discussing today.
Yeah.
This idea of connecting with the world on a deeper level.
It's about understanding, appreciating, and embracing the richness and diversity of human experience.
Well said. I feel like we've really cracked open this topic and uncovered so many hidden gems.
We have.
I know.
And this is just the beginning.
Right.
I encourage you, our listener, to keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries.
There's a whole world of knowledge, experiences, and connections out there waiting to be discovered.
So go forth and learn, my friends.
Yes.
Embrace the journey and see where it takes you.
Until next time.
Okay. Ready to dive into some persuasive writing?
I am.
We're going deep with a podcast script for English language learners.
Sounds interesting.
But, you know, even if you're already a pretty good writer, there's always something new to learn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think this one's got some hidden gems for all of us.
Well, what I find interesting is how this script, it really just lays out how to persuade anybody, no matter what their, language level is.
Yeah.
We're talking about influence,
Right.
like the structure, the clarity, the emotional connection.
Yeah.
It works when you're writing a business proposal or even just trying to get your friend to try a new restaurant.
Exactly. It's not just for like politicians or marketers or whatever.
Yeah, no,
Persuasive writing, I mean, think about it.
yeah.
Like that last email you wrote where you really needed to like get your point across.
Oh, yeah.
Or a cover letter for a job.
Right.
You think a little persuasive magic could have helped?
Oh, I'm sure it could have.
I think so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what? The source material uses this great example.
Okay.
Trying to convince your boss to implement flexible working hours.
No.
It's not just writing some sentences.
Right.
You have to make an argument. Highlight the benefits for the company
Yeah.
and for the employees too.
Right. You got to show them how it's a win-win.
Exactly. A win-win, hard to resist.
Okay, I'm sold. Persuasion is power. It is.
But how do we actually do it?
Right.
Well, this source material breaks down a persuasive piece into
Yes.
3 parts. The introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds pretty basic.
Yeah.
But there's a reason this structure has worked forever.
I know, right? It's not just some random formula.
Right.
This goes all the way back to classical rhetoric.
Oh.
You know, the art of persuasion, it's been around for centuries.
Wow.
What's fascinating is that it still applies today.
So cool.
You follow this structure, and it's like a roadmap for your reader.
It guides them through your argument in a clear and logical way.
I love that. Okay, so guiding the reader. So this source material,
Yeah.
it gives some pretty good advice about writing a really strong introduction.
Okay.
It all starts with a hook,
Okay. Yeah.
something to grab your reader's attention, make them want to keep reading.
Got it.
They give this example of starting with a statistic about remote work and how it's increased productivity.
Oh, I like that.
It's all about getting their attention right away.
For sure. Then you follow up with a thesis statement.
Okay.
You know, basically what's your main point?
Right.
You can say something like, implementing flexible work hours will boost employee morale and increase productivity.
Boom. Okay, you got me. I'm hooked.
Perfect.
But what about the body paragraphs?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you really get into it.
This is where the Peel method comes in.
Keel. Okay, tell me more.
Each paragraph focuses on one single point,
Okay.
and it provides evidence, like building a case.
Brick by brick.
Exactly.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say flexible work hours, right?
Yeah.
One paragraph could be about how it impacts productivity.
Okay.
You start with a point. Flexible work arrangements lead to increased productivity.
Got it.
Then you give evidence, like studies, companies that have tried it, show it actually works,
So you're not just saying it, you're proving it.
right? Then goes the explanation.
Okay.
You say, you know, maybe employees can work during their peak hours,
Makes sense.
leading to better focus, you know?
Right. So it's not just the what, but the why.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about the L and Peel?
The L is for link.
Okay.
You wrap up the paragraph
Yeah.
and link it back to your thesis, your argument for flexible work.
Okay. So you're saying like,
Yeah.
by letting employees work when and where they're most productive,
Yes,
it's a win-win for everyone.
exactly.
This Peel method is like genius.
It is pretty
A
clever.
recipe for a killer paragraph.
I know, right?
Point, evidence, explanation, link.
You got it.
Okay, but before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
what about the conclusion? How do we wrap this whole thing up?
Right. The conclusion is your grand finale.
Okay.
It's your last chance to leave an impression.
Right.
The source material says, summarize your key arguments.
Okay.
Restate your thesis clearly.
Got it. So we're bringing it all back to that main argument.
Exactly. And you can get creative here.
Okay.
The source material suggests ending with a call to action.
Oh, like telling them what to do next?
Yeah, like in our flexible work hours example, you could suggest a trial period
Oh, that's
or
good.
tell them to learn more on a website or something.
So it's more than just reading. It's like, okay, what's next?
Exactly. Give them something to do.
Okay. So we covered the basic structure,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling there's a lot more to this.
Oh, there is.
What's next on our deep dive agenda?
Okay, now let's talk about the glue that holds a persuasive argument together.
Oh, intrigue me.
Connectors and transition phrases.
Okay.
Little words and phrases that make a huge difference.
Connectors, huh?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I feel like my writing is kind of choppy.
Okay.
Like, I have all these good ideas, but
Right.
they're not really flowing together.
Yeah, that's where connectors come in.
Okay.
They're like bridges between your ideas, transitions that guide your reader from one point to the next.
Smooth it all out.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? These tiny little words, they can have a huge impact.
Really?
Oh, yeah. on how clear and persuasive your writing is.
So it's not just what you say,
Right.
but how you connect it all together.
You got it.
The source material actually breaks these connectors down into like different categories.
Yeah.
Adding information, contrasting ideas, cause and effect.
Right. It's like a whole toolbox
It is, right.
for writing.
For persuasive writing.
Yeah. Just like any tool,
Yeah.
you got to know how to use them the right way.
Right. Okay, so let's start with adding information.
Okay. So words like furthermore, in addition, moreover,
Okay.
those are great when you want to build on a previous point. You're giving more support for your argument.
Okay.
Like, let's say you're writing about exercise.
Okay.
You could say, regular exercise improves cardiovascular health. Moreover, it strengthens muscles and bones.
Okay, so you're like building up a case.
Exactly. Each point adds to the one before it.
Got it. What about contrasting ideas?
Oh, yeah, those can be tough.
They are.
But connectors, like however, on the other hand, nevertheless,
Okay.
those can help you be more balanced,
Right.
more nuanced.
So it's not just one-sided.
Right. Like, let's say you're arguing that technology makes life easier.
Yeah, okay.
You could say, however, it's important to be mindful of technology addiction and privacy concerns.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. You're acknowledging the other side.
Yeah,
It makes your argument stronger.
because you're not ignoring the potential problems.
Exactly. You're addressing them head on.
Okay, what about cause and effect?
Oh, that's a good one.
I struggle with that sometimes.
Well, connectors, like as a result, therefore, consequently,
Okay,
those can really help.
okay.
Showing that one thing leads to another.
Right.
For example, climate change. You could say
Well-
greenhouse gas emissions have increased dramatically. As a result, global temperatures are rising.
Wow, you just made that so clear.
See, connectors are powerful.
They are. I'm starting to see how they can really
Yeah.
make a difference in writing.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to something else important
Okay.
that the source material talks about. Tone and formality.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
Tone and formality can completely change how your message is received.
I get that.
Like you wouldn't talk to your friend the same way
Right.
as you would to your boss.
Definitely not.
Right, you'd get fired.
Exactly. It's all about knowing your audience
Yeah.
and the context.
The source material talks about two main types of tone,
Okay.
professional and passionate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What's the difference?
Professional is more objective, straightforward,
Got it.
focuses on facts and logic.
Okay.
Passionate, well, it's more emotional.
Uh-huh.
You let your energy show.
So when would you use one over the other?
It depends.
Okay.
What are you trying to do? Who are you talking to?
Right. Right.
If you're giving a presentation at a conference,
Mm-hmm.
you probably want to be professional.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're writing a blog post about something you're passionate about,
Right.
let that passion shine through.
So match your tone to the situation.
Exactly.
Now, what about formality?
Okay, so the source material talks about formal and semi-formal writing.
Okay, I'm not sure I know the difference.
Formal is like super professional.
Right.
Academic papers, official documents, that kind of thing.
Got it.
More complex sentences, bigger words, no contractions.
Okay.
Semi-formal is more relaxed, like an email or a blog post.
More conversational?
Exactly.
So it's like formal is wearing a suit
Yeah.
and semi-formal is business casual.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, good.
You got it.
So again, it's all about knowing your audience and the situation.
Right, just for the occasion.
I'm realizing that persuasive writing is more than just
Yeah,
putting some sentences together.
it is. There's a lot to it.
It is, but
Yeah.
even with all this knowledge,
Right.
I still make mistakes sometimes.
We all do.
Are there any like common ones we should be aware of?
Definitely. The source material has a whole list.
Okay, like a cheat sheet?
Yeah. Common mistakes and how to fix them.
Okay, give me the top one.
Overloaded sentences.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to cram too much into one sentence.
I do that all the time.
It happens.
It gets all confusing.
It does.
It's like a jumbled mess.
The solution. Break it down.
Oh, okay. Simpler.
Shorter sentences.
Right, right. Keep it clear.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
What else? Using big words when you don't need to.
Oh, trying to sound smart.
Yeah, but it usually backfires.
Right.
Just use clear, simple language.
So people actually understand what you're saying.
Exactly. Don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, what's next?
Grammar and punctuation.
Ugh, I hate grammar.
It can be tricky.
But it's important.
It is. Nothing looks more unprofessional.
Yeah, like you didn't even try.
Exactly.
Right.
But grammar's hard.
That's why you proofread
Right.
and use tools like Grammarly.
Oh, yeah. Technology to the rescue.
Right. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, what's the last mistake on the list?
This one's important.
Okay.
not backing up your claims.
Oh, yeah.
You can say whatever you want,
Right.
but if you don't have evidence,
Right. It means nothing.
exactly, it's just empty words.
So you got to prove it.
Use statistics, studies, examples.
Real life stuff.
Exactly. The stronger your evidence, the stronger your argument.
Okay, wow. This has been like a crash course
I know, right?
in persuasive writing.
It has.
I feel like I learned a lot,
Good.
but I know there's always more to learn.
Oh, absolutely. The key is to keep practicing.
Exactly. The more you write, the better you'll get.
I'm feeling inspired.
That's great.
Before we wrap up, though,
Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
If you could write the most persuasive message in the world,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And who would you send it to?
That's tough. You know, if I could write the most persuasive message,
Yeah.
it would be about empathy and understanding,
Okay.
between people from different backgrounds and cultures.
Mhm.
I'd send it to everyone,
Wow.
everywhere.
That's beautiful.
I think it could help bridge divides,
Yeah.
make the world a little more peaceful.
A little more compassionate.
Exactly.
It reminds us that persuasive writing,
Yeah.
it's not just about getting what we want.
No, it's not.
It's about making a difference
It can be.
in the world.
It can.
Okay, so much to think about.
I know.
We're almost out of time for today.
Okay.
It's amazing how persuasive writing can be used for like all sorts of things.
It really is.
Selling products, promoting social change.
Right.
It's a powerful tool.
Powerful. And like any tool,
Yeah,
it can be used for good or bad.
that's true.
We have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, the ethical side of it.
Exactly. Just because we can persuade someone
Right.
doesn't mean we should.
It's about using that power responsibly.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important
Yeah.
to understand your audience and your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you actually trying to do?
Right, what's the goal?
Are you informing, educating, inspiring, or just entertaining?
So many possibilities.
Once you know your purpose,
Yeah.
you can figure out the best way to achieve it.
I'm realizing persuasive writing is more than just tricks and techniques.
It is.
It's about connecting with your audience.
Yeah.
Understanding them.
Understanding their needs, what motivates them.
Yeah, and presenting your ideas in a way that like speaks to them.
Exactly. You want your writing to resonate with them.
It's about building trust.
Right. Building a connection.
And that takes time.
It does. It's not something that happens overnight.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm excited to try out some of these things in my own writing.
You should. And remember, the best way to get better
Yeah.
is to practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Write every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Okay.
Try different techniques, play around with connectors.
Experiment.
Exactly. See what works for you.
Okay. Any last words of wisdom?
Yes. Find your voice.
Okay.
Be authentic. Write with passion.
Because
The most persuasive writing
Yeah.
comes from the heart.
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive
It does.
into persuasive writing.
Time flies.
I hope everyone listening
Me too.
learned a lot
It was fun.
and had some fun along the way.
Yes.
Remember, the power of persuasion is
Yeah.
in your hands.
Use it wisely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You guys wanted to learn all about negotiation and persuasion, so that's what we're doing today. But get this, our source material. It's a script for teaching English as a second language.
Yeah, pretty unexpected, right?
I know, but honestly, I'm thinking this different angle could make things really interesting. Maybe even give us a fresh take on like classic techniques and stuff.
Totally. And you know what else is cool about this script? They make a clear distinction between negotiation and persuasion right off the bat, which I think a lot of people kind of use interchangeably.
Oh, for sure. Like I always thought they were basically the same thing.
Well, here they're saying negotiation is all about finding an agreement. Whereas persuasion, that's more about influencing someone to think or do something specific.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So it's less about compromise and more about getting them to come around to your side.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you're trying to buy a car, right? Negotiation's the back and forth on price. But persuasion is convincing the seller that your offer is the best one, even if it's not the highest.
Okay, so knowing which one you're dealing with is key. Gotcha. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What kind of strategies does this script recommend?
One big one is preparation, like really doing your homework. They even talk about researching the other person's past negotiations. or looking for weaknesses in their usual arguments.
So it's like knowing your opponent in a chess match.
Exactly. But even if you don't know much about the person, you can still prepare. This script suggests, like, figuring out their needs and goals. Like, what are they really trying to achieve?
That's smart, because once you know what they want, you can figure out how to give it to them in a way that also works for you, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that win-win.
Love it. Okay, this script also mentioned something called anchoring. What's that all about?
Ah, yeah. Anchoring. That's a classic. It's basically setting a high starting point in the negotiation. Like, you ask for more than you actually expect to get.
Ooh, sneaky. But why?
It's all about setting the frame, right? Makes any counteroffers seem more reasonable by comparison.
So, like, if I'm selling something, I start with a price that's a bit high, knowing it'll probably come down a little.
Exactly. And they even gave this example about a salary negotiation. You could say something like, based on my research, I was thinking more along the lines of $80,000.
Bold. But what if they just, like, laugh you out of the room?
Well, that's why you got to find that sweet spot. Be ambitious but believable. Have a solid reason for that initial number you throw out.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't want to seem delusional. Okay, what else? Any other cool tactics in this script?
You know what they emphasize that I find interesting? The power of silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
Like, after you make an offer, just be quiet. Let the other person respond first.
Yes, that can make people uncomfortable. And then maybe they blurt out something.
That's the idea. This script connects it to something called loss aversion. People hate losing more than they like winning, you know? So silence kind of creates that potential for loss.
Oh, I get it. So if I don't say anything, they're worried I'm going to walk away.
Exactly. Subtle but effective.
Wow, I like it. This script even gives like an actual dialogue example.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's about a job interview, and you say, based on my research, I believe a salary of $70,000 is fair for this role. And they're like, that's higher than we were thinking. And then you just pause.
Ooh, I love it. That silence speaks volumes.
Right. So much better than immediately lowering your ask. Okay, so we've got preparation, anchoring, and the silent treatment. What else did this script have to say about negotiation?
Oh, they also talk about knowing when to walk away.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, but sometimes it's the best move.
Like if they're just not budging and you're not getting what you need.
Exactly. Got to know your worth, right?
For sure. Okay, so we've covered some solid negotiation tactics, but what about persuasion?
Ah, yes. Persuasion. This script had some fun stuff on that too.
I'm ready. Hit me with your best persuasive tips.
Well, one they highlight is the rule of reciprocity. You ever notice how, like, if someone does something nice, you kind of feel obligated to do something nice back?
Oh, totally. Like if a friend helps me move, I'm definitely buying them dinner.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's reciprocity. And it can be really powerful for persuasion. The script suggests, like, doing a small favor before making your request.
So like butter them up a bit first.
In a way, yeah. Could be something small, like sharing some helpful info or just being supportive.
Okay, so it's like creating a sense of, I owe you one.
Yeah, exactly. People naturally want to return favors.
Makes sense. What else?
Another technique they talk about is appealing to emotions.
Ooh, interesting. Because logic doesn't always win the day, right?
Nope. Humans are emotional creatures.
Yeah.
And this script really emphasized storytelling as a way to connect on that level.
Oh, I love that. A good story can really change people's minds.
For sure. But it's going to be authentic. You know, the script warns against, like, being manipulative.
Right, don't want to guilt trip anyone.
Exactly. It's about sharing genuine stories that resonate with people.
So, like, instead of just stating facts, weave them into a compelling narrative.
Exactly. It's way more impactful. They even gave an example about creating urgency.
Ooh, like those limited time offer things.
Yeah, like this discount ends Friday, so act fast.
Oh, I fall for those all the time.
It's effective, creates that fear of missing out.
Totally. Speaking of effective, what about social proof? This script mentioned that too, right?
They did. Social proof is all about, like, showing that other people are already doing what you want them to do.
Oh, right, like online reviews. If something has tons of 5-star reviews, I'm way more likely to buy it.
Exactly. We look to others to guide our decisions, especially when we're unsure.
So how can we use that for persuasion?
Well, the script suggests showcasing testimonials, positive reviews, anything that shows others have benefited.
It's like saying, hey, everyone else loves this. You will too.
Exactly. It taps into that desire to fit in.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got some powerful persuasive techniques here, but I'm guessing it's not all about the tricks.
Definitely not. The script also emphasizes like staying calm and confident.
Right. Because if you seem nervous or unsure, people pick up on that.
Absolutely. It's about believing in what you're saying.
I love that. So much of this comes down to just being genuine.
Yeah, and a big part of that is active listening.
So it's not just about talking AT people. It's about understanding them.
Right. The script talks about like paraphrasing to confirm you understand, asking clarifying questions.
Shows you're actually engaged, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly. And one final point they made, which I think is important, following up afterwards.
Even if you don't reach an agreement right away.
Yep. Just a quick email summarizing, thanking them for their time.
Keeps the door open. I like it. This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It really has. Who knew an English language learning script could be so insightful?
Seriously. We've covered so much.
Lots of practical stuff in there.
And our listener wanted to become a master negotiator, so I think we're giving them the tip.
For sure. The script had a great point about practice, too.
Right. It's one thing to know the techniques, but got to actually use them.
Yeah. They even suggest role-playing with a friend.
Get some reps in.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So for our listener who's eager to put all this into action, what's the biggest takeaway?
I'd say it's to approach negotiation and persuasion strategically. It's not about being slick or manipulative. It's about understanding the psychology.
And practicing.
Exactly. So to our listener, now that you have these tools, think about it. What situation are you going to use them in first? How are you going to tailor them to your goals?
Such a good question. We want to hear all about it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning and keep leveling up.
Yeah, and they had a good point at the end, too, about practice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Practice is key.
Right. It's one thing to, like, know about these techniques, but you got to actually use them.
Totally. It's like anything else,
Yeah.
The more you do it, the better you get.
Exactly. And this script even suggests, like, role-playing.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like practice with a friend or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you can get comfortable with the techniques before you use them in a real situation.
Smart. Okay, so for our listener who's ready to become a negotiation superstar, what's the most important thing they should remember from all this?
That's a good question. I think the key takeaway is that negotiation and persuasion, they're skills.
Yeah, not just like some magic tricks.
Right. It's not about manipulating people. It's about understanding, like, the psychology behind it all.
And preparation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Preparation is huge.
Knowing your stuff, knowing the other person, knowing what you want.
Exactly. And then, of course, practice.
Can't forget the practice. All right. So to our awesome listener out there, you wanted to know all about negotiation and persuasion. And I think we delivered.
I hope so. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. And honestly, I learned a ton myself.
Me too. Always good to, like, refresh those skills, right?
Absolutely. So, listener, now that you have all these tools in your toolbox, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah. What situation are you going to try them out in first? How are you going to make them work for you?
Ooh, that's a challenge. Let us know how it goes, okay? Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
So you want to get better at speaking English, huh? Well, that's awesome. We're doing a deep dive into this script that's like packed with tips.
Okay.
It says it's for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone could find something useful in here.
Yeah. I can.
No matter like how long you've been speaking English. In fact, it reminds me of this one time. Well, let's just say I learned the hard way that good communication can really like make or break a situation.
It's true. Clear communication is so important. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this script is how it starts by addressing the fear factor.
Right.
That feeling of, what if I mess up?
Oh, totally.
Or like, what if I don't have the right words? The script really acknowledges those anxieties.
Yeah.
And reframes them as just part of the process.
Totally.
It's not like a sign that you're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal.
It's so true. Instead of just like jumping into grammar rules, it really encourages you to just start with simple phrases that you can use every day. Things like, how are you? Or can you help me with this?
Yes, exactly.
Like that seems almost too easy.
I know. It might seem that way.
Yeah.
But think about it. Like, how do we get good at anything?
Right.
We practice, we repeat, we kind of build those neural pathways. Mm-hmm. By practicing these like simple phrases, you're training your brain to think and react in English more automatically.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's almost like you're laying the foundation for a house.
Yeah.
You need a solid base before you can build those like, fancy upper floors.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to see how those basic phrases aren't so basic after all. Now, this next tip is something I actually do myself,
Oh, really?
imitating native speakers.
Oh, interesting.
The script suggests like watching movies, listening to podcasts, anything that you enjoy, basically,
Right.
and trying to mimic their pronunciation, the tone, even the rhythm. It's like learning by osmosis, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's all about immersion.
Yeah.
You know, by surrounding yourself with the sounds of like spoken English, you're picking up on those subtle nuances that textbook learning sometimes misses.
Oh, totally.
You start to notice, how native speakers connect words, where they emphasize certain syllables, how their intonation changes depending on the situation. And don't worry about like sounding exactly like someone else. It's more about like absorbing those patterns and incorporating them into your own, unique way of speaking.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of sounding more natural, the script also talks about using idioms.
Okay.
Have you found that mastering those little expressions makes a big difference in how fluent someone sounds?
Oh, absolutely. Idioms are those like colorful figurative expressions that just add a touch of like personality and cultural understanding to your language. Think of phrases like break the ice, piece of cake, or hit the nail on the head. They don't always translate literally.
Right, exactly.
But they convey a very specific meaning within a cultural context.
They do. And they're not just about sounding more fluent.
Right.
They also show that you understand the nuances of the language and the culture.
Right, exactly.
If you can just casually drop an idiom into conversation,
Yep.
it shows you're not just speaking the language, but you're engaging with it on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it signals that you're going beyond the textbook,
Right.
embracing the richness of the language. Now, another tip the script highlights is the importance of pronunciation.
Of course.
It might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people neglect this aspect.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in grammar and vocabulary.
I know.
But clear pronunciation is crucial if you want people to understand you. I mean, we've all had those moments where we've mumbled or mispronounced something and it just leads to confusion or awkwardness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this script even suggests using some online tools like Forvo or Youglish to practice and fine-tune your pronunciation. These tools let you hear how native speakers pronounce different words and phrases.
Oh, cool.
You can even record yourself to compare and contrast.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's like having a personal pronunciation coach.
That's awesome. Okay, one more tip before we move on, and it's a classic.
You okay?
Tongue twisters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't stumbled over "she sells seashells by the seashore" at least once?
Right, at least once.
Yeah.
Everyone's tried that.
But why do you think the script emphasizes these seemingly silly exercises?
Well, beyond being a fun challenge, tongue twisters are actually incredibly effective for training your mouth muscles
Interesting.
to produce specific sounds accurately.
Yeah.
By repeating these kind of tricky phrases, you're working on your articulation, which is crucial for clear and understandable speech. Think about it. When you speak clearly, your audience can focus on what you're saying, your message, instead of straining to decipher your words. It's a subtle but powerful way to just enhance your overall communication skills.
That's a good point. It's not just about sounding fancy. It's about making sure that your message comes across loud and clear.
Right, exactly.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the tips focused on pronunciation and sounding more natural.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we move on to some of the other areas the script covers?
Absolutely. Let's dive deeper into those other essential aspects of speaking English with confidence.
Just do it.
One thing that really struck me about this script is how it emphasizes the importance of building your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It suggests aiming to learn 3 to 5 new words each day.
Okay.
And then actually using them in sentences.
Right.
What do you think about that approach?
It sounds simple enough, but I can definitely see how it would be really effective. Instead of just memorizing a list of words, you're actually integrating them into your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's you're taking those words out for a spin, getting comfortable with them.
Totally. And the script even provides a simple example I learned the word excited.
Okay.
I feel excited to practice speaking today.
Right.
It might seem basic, but that act of using the word in a sentence helps solidify it in your memory.
Right.
It's like taking a new tool out of the toolbox and learning how to use it.
I like that. And speaking of tools,
Yeah.
the script also mentions flashcards as a classic but effective method for vocabulary expansion. You write the word on one side, the definition or an example sentence on the other.
Oh yeah, classic flashcard.
It's a technique that's been around forever, but it just seems to stand the test of time. Why do you think that is?
Well, flashcards tap into some powerful learning principles,
Okay.
like spaced repetition and active recall. You're essentially forcing your brain to retrieve the information from memory, which strengthens those neural connections.
Okay.
And by spacing out your review sessions, you're ensuring that the information gets transferred to your long-term memory.
It's like giving your brain a little workout.
It is.
Right. The more you challenge yourself to recall those words and definitions, the stronger those memories become.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, beyond individual words, this script also talks about learning common phrases and idioms.
Right.
What's the advantage of focusing on phrases rather than just memorizing isolated words?
It's about shifting from a word-based approach to a more phrase-based approach.
Yeah.
When you master those common phrases, you're essentially equipping yourself with pre-packaged units of meaning that can be readily deployed in various situations.
Yeah.
It just makes your speech more fluent and natural.
Right.
Because you're not having to mentally translate each individual word in real time.
It's like learning to dance. You start with basic steps, and then eventually you're able to string those steps together into more complex sequences and movements.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Speaking of fluency, one tip that caught my eye is the idea of thinking in English.
Oh, yeah.
The script suggests that instead of translating from your native language, you should try to form your thoughts directly in English.
Right?
Do you think that's really possible, especially for someone who's just starting out?
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
It might not happen overnight,
Right.
but with consistent practice and immersion, it becomes increasingly natural. You'll find yourself thinking in English more and more, especially in situations where you're using the language frequently.
Right.
It's like you're training your brain to kind of... It is.
Now, of course, all the vocabulary and mental practice in the world won't do much good if you're not actually speaking out loud. And that's where the script's emphasis on practice really comes in.
Yes.
It suggests finding a language partner or tutor to have regular conversations with. What are your thoughts on the importance of finding a speaking buddy?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, you can learn all the grammar rules and vocabulary in the world, but speaking is a skill that requires active practice. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just read about music theory. You'd actually pick up the instrument and play it. Having a dedicated partner or tutor provides you with a safe and supportive environment to experiment, make mistakes, and refine your spoken English. It's like having a training partner at the gym.
Oh, yeah.
They push you to improve and help you stay motivated.
And speaking of staying motivated, the script also recommends joining English clubs or groups, either online or in person.
Yeah, great idea.
Why do you think that social aspect is so important for language learning?
Well, it's about more than just practicing your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's about immersing yourself in a community of like-minded individuals who share your goals. It fosters a sense of belonging and motivation, and it makes the learning journey more enjoyable. Think of it as expanding your social circle while also expanding your linguistic skills.
It's like killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
You're practicing your English and making new connections at the same time.
Absolutely.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the proactive steps you can take to improve your speaking skills.
Yeah, I think so too.
But this script also dives into something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Common mistakes and how to fix them. What do you think? Should we take a look at some of those pitfalls and how to avoid them?
Absolutely. Let's shed some light on those common stumbling blocks.
Okay.
And empower you to navigate them with confidence. We've talked about all these great tips and techniques.
Right.
But I think we could all agree that one of the biggest hurdles to speaking any language, especially a new one, is the fear of messing up.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever felt that way, like you're so worried about making a mistake that you just freeze up?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
All the time. It's like my brain just shuts down.
It's a completely natural human response.
Yeah.
We don't want to sound foolish or be judged.
Right.
So we hesitate, we overthink.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just avoid speaking altogether.
Right.
But here's the thing. This script really emphasizes mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah.
They're not a sign of failure.
Right.
They're actually proof that you're learning and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
So true. It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
But how does this script suggest we deal with that fear, practically speaking?
Well, it encourages you to reframe your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of seeing mistakes as something to be ashamed of, try to view them as valuable feedback.
Okay, yeah.
Each time you make a mistake, you're learning something new about the language. You're identifying areas where you need more practice, and you're becoming more aware of those subtle nuances that make a difference.
So it's not about striving for perfection, but about embracing the learning process, bumps and all.
Exactly.
Another common mistake the script highlights is this tendency to overcomplicate sentences. I know I've been guilty of this myself, especially when I'm trying to impress someone or sound more academic. Why do you think we do that, and how can we avoid falling to that trap?
I think it stems from this misconception that complexity equals intelligence or fluency.
Right.
We might feel like we need to use big words and intricate grammar to be taken seriously,
Yeah.
but in reality, simplicity is often the key to clear and effective communication.
It's so true.
Think about some of the most powerful speeches or like memorable quotes.
Right.
They're often quite simple and straightforward in their language.
It's like that quote, I think it's Mark Twain who said it, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead.
Exactly, yeah.
It actually takes more effort to distill your thoughts down to their essence.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how does the script suggest we simplify our sentences without sounding, well, too simple?
Well, it encourages you to focus on conveying your message in the most direct and understandable way possible.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to use shorter sentences,
Right.
everyday vocabulary, and a conversational tone. Think about how you would explain something to a friend or family member. You wouldn't use overly formal language or complicated structures.
Right. It's about being authentic and relatable.
Exactly.
Speaking of relatable, this script also dives into a common challenge that many English learners face: limited vocabulary. We've already talked about flashcards and learning new words every day, but what are some other strategies the script suggests for expanding our word bank?
It encourages you to become an active reader.
Okay.
Whether it's books, magazines, online articles, or even social media posts, the more you expose yourself to written English, the more new words and phrases you'll encounter.
Yeah.
And don't just passively read. Actively engage with the text. Underline unfamiliar words, look up their definitions, and try to use them in your own writing or conversations. It's like turning your reading material into a personalized vocabulary builder.
Like a treasure hunt for new words.
Yeah.
Now, beyond reading, this script also emphasizes the importance of actively listening to English being spoken, whether it's podcasts like this, movies, TV shows, or even conversations with native speakers. Just paying attention to how others use language can be incredibly insightful. Why do you think listening is such a crucial part of language learning?
Well, it's about more than just understanding the words being spoken.
Okay, yeah.
It's about absorbing the rhythm, the intonation,
Right.
the subtle ways that native speakers connect words and phrases. It's like training your ear to recognize the music of the language. And the more you listen, the more natural those patterns will start to sound, and the easier it will be to incorporate them into your own speaking.
So it's like immersing yourself in the soundscape of the language, even when you're not actively speaking.
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of active speaking, this script doesn't just leave you with tips and techniques. It actually provides a practice exercise to help you put it all together. Can you walk us through what that exercise entails?
Absolutely. It's a 3-step exercise designed to help you practice some fundamental conversation skills.
Okay.
The first step is introducing yourself.
Right.
You know, your name, where you're from, maybe a hobby or two.
Okay.
It's a simple way to warm up your speaking muscles and get comfortable talking about yourself.
It's like that classic icebreaker activity you do at the beginning of like a workshop or a meeting.
Exactly.
It helps you ease into the flow of conversation.
Exactly.
So what's step 2?
Step 2 is describing your day.
Okay.
You know, what you did, what you ate, any interesting events that happened. It's a great way to practice using different tenses,
Right.
vocabulary related to daily activities, and even like descriptive language. You can make it as simple or as detailed as you like, depending on your comfort level.
Yeah. It's like turning your everyday life into a conversation topic. And finally, the 3rd step.
The 3rd step is all about practicing asking and answering questions.
Okay.
You could use simple questions like, what's your favorite color?
Right.
Or what do you like to do in your free time? Or you can get more creative and ask open-ended questions that spark more in-depth conversations. The key is to practice formulating questions clearly
Yeah.
and responding in a way that keeps the conversation flowing.
It's like a mini conversation simulator. And the best part is you can adapt this exercise to fit your own interests and goals. If you're interested in travel, you can practice talking about your dream vacation. If you're learning English for business, you could practice, asking work-related questions. The possibilities are really endless.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your learning journey and making it relevant to your own life. And don't forget, this exercise is just a starting point. You can repeat it as many times as you like, focusing on different areas each time. And remember, the more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the script packed with tips, techniques, and even a practice exercise to help you on your journey to speaking English with confidence. We've covered a lot of ground today, but if we had to distill it down to a few key takeaways, what would you say are the most important things to remember?
I would say, embrace those mistakes, keep things simple, expand your vocabulary through reading and listening,
Yes.
find a speaking buddy, and most importantly, practice, practice, practice. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Love that.
And every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal.
I love that. And speaking of taking steps, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to think about. Think about all the reasons you're learning English. Maybe you want to connect with people from different cultures. Maybe you want to advance your career. Or maybe you just want to experience the world in a new way. How do you think improving your English speaking skills will help you achieve those bigger dreams and aspirations? That's something I want you to ponder as you continue on your language learning journey. Until next time, happy speaking!